up to those lessons. So the structure is still the same. There are 4 lessons that we are planning to cover, and then followed by a questions and answers session. There are 2 ways you can submit your questions. People who are joining us on Microsoft Teams, you can use the chat option. And those who are viewing this program on YouTube, on top right-hand side, there is a chat option as well that we have enabled for you to submit questions, so we can collect all these questions and discuss at the end of the program. On a usual Sunday, the children know that we say Gatha and we worship Lord Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. But because of the time, what we usually do is we observe 5 precepts. But I do have some good news for you, that is Temple has organized a live streaming of evening Buddha Puja every day at 7:30. So that means children and parents can join the puja at 7:30 every day from your home. So I encourage you to do the offerings from your home and join Hamuduru at 7:30 on this YouTube channel, so you can say the Gatha and evening Buddha Puja. So without further ado, I'm going to now respectfully invite our Shanta Vimala Hamuduru to administer 5 precepts. Avasara ape Hamudurune.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please say Namo Tassa 3 times in order to observe 5 precepts. Namo Tassa. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Sarana-gamanang sampunnang. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinnādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kāmesu micchācārā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvādā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamā daṭṭhāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Tisaranena saddhim pañcasīlaṃ dhammaṃ sādhukaṃ surakkitaṃ kattvā appamādena sampādetabbhaṃ.
We thank our Hamuduru for administering 5 precepts. Now let's move on to the first lesson of the day. Children, you know there are 4 lessons that we cover in each program. So our first lesson is about one of the key fundamentals of Buddhism. And I'm pretty sure most of you know this, and you probably have heard, but if you don't have, that's okay. This is your chance to learn. And I encourage you to take a pen and a paper, write down if you have any questions, and then submit them through for us to have a discussion at the end of the program as well. So I'm going to invite our Venerable Shantavimala Thero, and the topic Swami Wahanse chosen today is the 4 Noble Truths, one of the key fundamentals of Buddhism. So now I'm going to respectfully invite our Swami Wahanse to explain to us about the 4 Noble Truths. අවසරයි අපේ හාමුදුරුවනේ.
Good afternoon, our Sunday school children, and happy to see you all again. I'm very happy to be with you today, also to teach you something very important. So this is the third session of our online program for our Sunday school children. So we have been talking about lots of important topics throughout our sessions. So today also I'm going to talk about one of the most important teachings of the Lord Buddha for the betterment of our life, for the understanding of our life. So today I'm going to talk about Four Noble Truths. I think I'm very sure that you may have heard and you may have learned about Four Noble Truths many times. Just a matter you will be able to learn again, and you will be able to remember about Four Noble Truths having listened to this discussion also. So let me begin with my talk. Teachings of Four Noble Truths is the heart of the Lord Buddha's teaching. Why do I say that the teaching of Four Noble Truths is heart of the teachings of the Buddha? Because the main purpose of teachings of the Buddha is to release from this samsara and attain final goal of Nibbana. That is the main purpose of the teachings of the Buddha. So therefore, the teachings of Four Noble Truths can be considered as the heart teachings of the Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha explained to people, those people who do not understand, those people who do not realize the teachings of the Four Noble Truths, those people, even to the Buddha, may have to go through this cycle of birth and death many times, because if they do not understand or do not realize the teachings of Four Noble Truths, therefore these teachings are very important for people to overcome from their problems. These teachings were taught for the first time to the 5 ascetic monks, Paswaga Mahanun, and this teaching is called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and that is the first sermon of the Lord Buddha, which was delivered to the 5 ascetics in India. So we can consider Lord Buddha as a doctor, as a physician. Why can we consider the Buddha as a doctor or physician? Because the Lord Buddha has identified, has diagnosed the problem of suffering. He has diagnosed the problem, suffering, in the first noble truth, the truth of suffering, dukkha satya. And in the second noble truth, the Buddha has identified the cause of suffering. What is the cause of suffering? He has identified. In the third noble truth, the Buddha has declared that there is cure for this problem. Right? And the last the last truth, the Buddha has set out Noble Eightfold Path as prescription for this suffering, like a treatment for this suffering. So therefore we can consider the Lord Buddha as a doctor, physician, because he has understood the problem and he has identified the cause of problem, and he has declared that there is cure for this problem, and then he has given prescription for this problem. So therefore it is very important, the Lord Buddha's teaching, for us to overcome from the suffering. So I hope that you may memorize the teachings of the Buddha, teachings of the Four Noble Truths. The first one is truth of suffering, dukkha satya. The second one is the truth of cause of suffering, dukkha samudaya satya. The third one is dukkha nirodha satya, the truth of cessation of suffering. And the fourth one is the path to the cessation of suffering, dukkha nirodha gamini marga satya. These are the Four Noble Truths. Let's talk about each one bit by bit in order to get a good picture of these teachings. So, dukkha satya, the truth of suffering. What do you mean by suffering? Some people may have misinterpreted the suffering, the concept of suffering. They think that those people who live in poor countries, those people who do not have food, those people who do not have house to live in, those people who do not have proper water to drink, and those people who sleep on the streets, they consider those people only experience suffering. That is not true, actually. Don't look too far outside. Just bring your attention to yourself. Bring your attention to yourself and think about yourself, right? Can anyone tell me how many of you are free from stress and anxiety? How many of you are free from stress and anxiety, right? I'm very sure that we all experience anxiety and stress every day. For example, we compete with many things in the world today. We compete with our studies, we compete with our jobs, right? We worry about our future, we worry about our exam results, right? And also we worry about future achievements, and sometimes you compare your achievements with your peer groups, right? And maybe your failure you take as shame sometimes. So this is what the Buddha called really suffering. This is what the Buddha called suffering. Understand? So, and also the Buddha explained that these common things, these problems that we experience day to day our life are suffering actually. Stress and anxiety can be considered as suffering. And also the Buddha further classified 8 types of sufferings. How many types? 8 types of suffering. Buddha has declared, Buddha has told there are 8 types of suffering that each and every human being experiences. Do you want to know them? The first one is birth can be suffering, right? Birth can be suffering because of our birth we experience all the other things in this world, right? Sometimes if you have born into animal world, then your birth will be a painful one, right? You experience suffering. So they are considering that we can consider birth as suffering. The second one, Buddha said that growing old is suffering. Jarapi dukkha, jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha. Getting old also kind of suffering. Nobody like to get old, right? When you see a gray hair on your head, then you feel sad, right? You always want to keep your hair black and nice, right? Because when you see something different on your appearance, then you feel sad. Therefore, we don't like getting old. The third one, attack of sickness, vyadipi dukkha. We also scared of getting sicknesses, right? Nowadays, we are very worried about, we scared of getting COVID-19 virus, right? We are scared of getting sicknesses. So it is also kind of suffering. The fourth one, phobia of death, maranampi dukkha. Nobody like to get died. We don't like to die, right? We don't like to get killed, or we don't want to die. So we also have a phobia of death. So that is also kind of suffering actually. We want to live longer, as long as it possible, right? Maybe more than 100 years we like to live. So we nobody like to die. So therefore, death is also kind of suffering, phobia. And the losing we love one is also suffering. In Pali it says "Piyahi vipayogo dukkho." Losing someone who is close to you also kind of suffering, and also association with dislike people, dislike friends also kind of suffering. Appiyahi sampayogo dukkho. Association with dislike friends also kind of suffering. And the next one, not getting what one's like, also kind of suffering. Like for example, you like to have iPhone, but you can't get it, and you want to have a good job, but you can't get it, maybe due to some other reason. And if you want to have lots of money, but due to some reason you may have not able to get that. So because of that you get sad or suffering. That Buddha said that yam picchanna labati thampi dukkhang. If you don't get something that you really want, then you feel sad, right? So the first one, in short, the Buddha said that clinging to attachment to 5 aggregates are also kind of suffering. I'm not going to explain in details all those 5 aggregates, but in short, Buddha said that clinging to, attached to these 5 aggregates are also called suffering. So this is what is we mean by suffering, right? So now let's understand the cause for this suffering. What is the cause for this suffering? We already understand the concept of suffering now. Now it is time for us to understand what is the cause for these sufferings. What do you think? Do you have any ideas? Can anyone tell me that? What is the cause? The cause of this suffering is desire, attachment, right? And also we can say greed, attachment, and also desire for material things and ideas, right? That is the cause for suffering. For example, you want to have lots of things. You can't be satisfied whatever things that you are possessing at the moment. You want to gain, you want to gather more and more. But we can't be satisfied. Then what happened to us? We feel sad. That is called suffering, right? Therefore, the cause of suffering is desire to material things and strong craving for material things, right? If you have very much craving for food, for movies or games, at the end, what will happen? You will experience suffering, right? For example, if you have too much craving for food, and if you eat too much food, what will happen to you? You will get physical problems and health issues, right? Like obesity and so on, diabetics and so on. So at the end, we ended up with suffering. That's why too much strong desire will create some problems like suffering. Therefore, we have to get rid of this desire, right? So now you already understand the cause of suffering. Cause of suffering is desire and strong attachment. Then let's find out whether do we have any solution or any solution for these problems. The Buddha said that cessation of suffering, dukkha nirodha. There is a path, there is a way, there is a cure, and there is solution for these sufferings. That is why in the third noble truth, the Buddha said that cessation of suffering, there is way to overcome this suffering. Annihilation of, get rid of strong attachment, desire, clinging, greed, and craving for things, then you will not experience suffering. If you do not have these things, if you can get rid of these negative thoughts like greed, desire, and craving, then actually you will not experience suffering. then what do you need to do? You need to get rid of these negative thoughts in your mind, right? But Buddha, having understood that, having said that, he has given us prescription, he has given us the path, he has shown us the path, he has given us the techniques to follow in order to overcome this suffering. Do you know that? What is the path? What is the way? Do you know how Buddha gave us the prescriptions as a doctor, as a physician? He has given middle path, noble eightfold path. How many? How many are there? 8 factors. These 8 factors, 8 noble paths to be followed and to be practiced. In order to what? In order to overcome suffering. When you overcome suffering, what does that mean? It means the final goal of Nibbana, enlightenment. So what is the first one? The first one is right view. I'm not going to explain one by one. I'm going to briefly tell you, or maybe in the next session we can talk about all those topics. First one is right view. The second one is right thought. The third one is right speech. Fourth one is right action. Fifth one is right livelihood. Sixth one is right effort. 7 is right mindfulness. And 8 is right consciousness, concentration. These are the 8 factors that you need to follow. If someone follows these 8 factors, 3 great things improve in them. What are the 3 things that improve in them? If you practice these 8 steps, right? The sila, morality will improve in you. And samadhi, concentration, will improve in you. And the wisdom, prajna, is improved in you. So if you practice these 8 factors, these 3 great qualities will improve in yourself. So if someone follows these 8 factors, that person can actually overcome suffering, and that person will be able to overcome all the death and birth in this world. And finally, those people can attain the final goal of Nibbana. So that is what I have to give you, this information. This all what I have to give you. So think about 4 noble truths, and think about again and again, and try to understand and try to realize these 4 noble truths, and then you can actually attain the final goal of Nibbana, and also you can overcome suffering. I wish you all the best. If you have questions later on, you can ask about my talk. Okay, bye.
We respectfully thank our Swami Vahansa for explaining the 4 noble truths. As Swami Vahansa explained, children, it's the key that one day all of us can escape from the cycle of samsara, being born and then the death, and then we'll continue that for so long until we achieve nirvana. So if you have any questions, do ask, and the Swami Vahansa will answer these questions at the end of the program. And we hope we will continue to discuss further about the 4 noble truths as we go on, and we'll look into the details and other concepts and teaching associated with 4 noble truths. So I'm a little bit excited to introduce our next teacher, and because all of you know this teacher very well, you may have not been in the class, but you know this person very well. I'm going to give you a clue so you can guess who the teacher is. He used to be our Dhamma coordinator at the Sunday school. I think all of you know who I'm going to introduce next. Yes, that's right. It's our Vimal sir, and Vimal sir has chosen a gatha called Nahi Verena Verani. So Vimal sir will explain this gatha and the meaning. There is a nice teaching for all of us in this gatha. So I'm going to invite our Vimal sir now to do our next lesson. Vimal sir, over to you.
Garthura Swamin Wahansege'n අවසරයි. My dear friends in the panel, and parents and my dear lovely children. Ayubowan. And yes, Siddhanta sir said that I was coordinator, but I'm not going to talk today as the coordinator, and I'm not going to give you any commands not to do and sit like this and keep the hands like this, and I'm not going to give any of those commands today. Instead of that, I'm going to teach you a Gatha. That Gatha is in the book called Dhammapada, and it is a very famous, very popular Gatha in Sri Lanka. Your parents may have memorized that Gatha, so you can talk with your parents about that Gatha. First, I'm going to recite the Gatha. Nahi verena verani sammantida kudachanang averena cha sammanti esa dhammo sanantano. This is the meaning of this Gatha is not a very difficult one. I'm going to read the meaning of the Gatha first. The meaning is hatred is indeed never overcome by hatred in this world. It is overcome only by loving kindness. This is an ancient law. That is the meaning of this Gatha. And if you talk with your parents, they can talk with you about this meaning, and it is not a very hard one to remember. But I am going to tell you now a story related to this Gatha. It's a nice story, but some parts are very sad, and but yes, it is. It explains the meaning of this Gatha as well. So the story begins with a man who had two wives. It's a long time ago, millions of years ago. That man had one wife at the beginning, and she didn't give him a child. She couldn't have children. So he brought another wife. And then he had two wives, but the second one shortly was pregnant, going to have a baby. So that the first wife started getting jealous, and she thought she had so many thoughts in her mind. She thought that, oh, my husband is not going to love me anymore. He is going to love this woman and that child. So I'm going to lose so many things, and so many miserable things came into her mind. So what she thought, I better do something about this. But she had a very vicious thought, and she thought, oh, I might make this child not born, or kill before he will be born. So then she made some medicinal thing, and she treated the second wife very nicely and very lovingly outside, but inside she got very bad thoughts and vicious thoughts, and she gave her some medicines, and finally she lost the child. And it happened several times. Then the second wife thought, no, this is not usual. There might be something happening, and she suspected this woman is doing something wrong. So finally, at the last time when the baby was she was going to lose the baby, and she was going to die as well. So she was very angry, and she made a vow to herself that in the future life I'm going to kill all her children, and so she died. And that is the beginning of the hatred. So she started hating the other woman because of her vicious actions and vicious thoughts. So in the samsara, long time, those two women born and died many times, and each times they were killing each other's babies, children. For example, in one birth, they both were born. One was born as a hen, and the other one was born as a cat. So the cat was waiting until the hen lays an egg. Each time she laid an egg, cat ate it. So the hen, even though we think that, oh, they cannot think, but they can think. And hen thought, oh, this cat is killing all my babies. One day I am going to kill her babies. And she started hating and started making the vow to revenge. So it went again and again, and so many lives, and once as a doe and leopardess, and so the leopardess ate all the little deers. Doe gave birth, and so on. It happened so many times, and finally they both were born in Lord Buddha's time. One was born as a daughter of a noble man, and the other one was born as a female devil, or yakini we call. And so the yakinis or devils, they have a powerful, they got the power to change their image. They can come as human sometimes. They can so that the daughter of noble man was going to give birth to a child, and then that yakini, because the book says her name as Kali Yakini. So Kali Yakini came as a woman and came kindly and got closer to her, and she started to get the baby, but that woman was suspicious, and she kept the child close to her, and the yakini, a woman who came as a yakini or devil, couldn't get the child, but she was following her, all behind her, following, wanting to take that baby to kill. But that mother of that child realized that this is a dangerous person. So to take the refuge from that person, the mother took the baby to the temple Jetavana, where the Buddha was preaching to the Mahasangha, Bhikkhu Sangha, and put the baby in the feet of Lord Buddha. So the yakini couldn't catch it. And then Lord Buddha preached the Dhamma to both of them and explained what happened. Many stories he told to them to realize how bad this is, life after life, what these two are doing. And then finally, Kali Yakini was so ashamed about herself, what she was doing, and she determined to stop that and listen to Lord Buddha's Dhamma so carefully, and she became Sotapanna. So that is the end of the story, and the Lord Buddha stopped that hatred between those two women. Now I'm going to briefly explain. There are two important words in this gatha. I'm going to explain just a little bit about those two gathas. The first word is Vera. Nahi verena verani. In the first line, it says vera. Vera is translated as hatred. In English, it says hatred, or perhaps it is comes hostile actions and also revenge. Because of the hatred, we always try to get a revenge, and this is we call vera. So the next word is avera. Avera is, it is not hatred. We can call it not hatred, or not thinking of revenge, not hostile actions. But all of those things summarized in two words, which is called loving kindness. That is not hating. Hatred, not hatred, or friendliness or kind. We all summarized all these words in loving kindness. So this is very important. Loving kindness, that is what we are going to talk next. Loving kindness. How do you practice loving kindness? Loving kindness, you cannot make if you are a vicious person, like in Buddha's time, Buddha could change that woman suddenly in a minute. But we cannot change our characteristics so quickly. We have to practice slowly, daily, continuously. We have to practice loving kindness to become a very kind person. But the main thing that we can go and check to learn how we practice loving kindness is Karaniya Metta Sutta. It says how to practice loving kindness, how to spread your kindness towards everybody, towards the world, towards the universe. You have to spread your kindness to seen or unseen people, or born or to be born people, those who are near you or far away from you, regardless of their size, whether they are big or small or ugly or beautiful or long or short or medium. Don't think about those things when you think of loving kindness. What do you mean when you say loving kindness? Always think nothing should happen to that person. Nothing should happen to anybody in the world. Nothing should happen bad to anybody in the world. May everybody be well. May everybody be healthy. May everybody be kind. No one should be angry or unkind to anybody in the world. When you think that thought, when you have those thoughts, spread to everybody in the east, in the west, and on the up, high, low, below, and you have to spread that one, loving kindness, kind thoughts about everywhere, people or animal or any other creatures that we cannot see in the world, in the universe. You have to spread that loving kindness. If you spread that loving kindness this way, you are radiating the kindness over the entire world. That is how we spread the loving kindness. You know now we are facing very big problem in the world now. This is the most important time we should cultivate our kindness, spread the kindness to the whole world. People are dying with the sickness. People are suffering from sicknesses, and people need their kindness. The world is talking about the supporting people, giving the food and supporting, giving the money. And but we should talk giving the kindness to the world, loving kindness to the world. Think of all those suffering people and spread your kindness. Think they may be well, they may be healthy, they may well be kind as well. And that is how we should stop our hatred and become aware. Stop aware and cultivate our aware, cultivate our loving kindness. And if you have any other question regarding my lesson, you can ask them later. If we get a time, we will try to explain a little bit more. Thank you very much for listening to me. Now over to you, Siddhanta, sir.
Thank you, Vimal sir, for explaining that lesson very carefully and in detail. Children, if you listen very carefully, there was a very beautiful message, and that is, you cannot overcome hatred and anger with anger or hatred. Avera, or your weapon or your tactic, should be love and kindness. So we thank our Vimal sir for coming in today and sharing the lessons with us. Let's move on to our third lesson for the day. So I'm going to ask a quick question, and I hope you know the answer. My question has two parts. See if you can answer quickly when from your home. So the question is, how many disciples Lord Buddha had, and what were their names? Question is, how many main disciples Lord Buddha had, and what were their names? I'm sure you should answer like this. There were two main disciples, and they were Venerable Mahasariputta and Venerable Mahamoggallana. So if you had the right answer, well done. If not, you know the right answer now. So I'm going to invite one of our veteran teachers for our next lesson, who the lesson is about Venerable Sariputta, the story of Venerable Sariputta. So without any further delays, I'm going to invite our Karunaratna Vitarma sir to explain the story of Venerable Sariputta. Karu sir, over to you now.
Thank you, Siddhanta. Most Venerable Santa Vimal Thero, and the members of the panel, and our online audience, especially most precious lot of children who have been attending the Sunday school, Dhamma school in Dhamma Sarana temple. Unfortunately, nowadays we are unable to conduct our conventional Sunday school due to this epidemic of corona or COVID-19 virus. You all may be aware of the current situation outside the world. It is really dangerous. Very dangerous to be out in the society. So I think there are a lot of things what we learn from Dhamma school to be applied here for your protection and the protection of the others in the society. Of course, my topic is something different, but I thought of addressing few words in this regard, because you children have to be very careful, very careful, and strictly adhere to the rules and regulations imposed by the government and the health authorities to minimize the bad effects what we are going to encounter, especially to you and to your family. So stay indoor and follow strict hygienic practices. Wash your hands. Remember that we have 9 openings in our body which these things can enter. Our mouth, our 2 nostrils, our eyes, our ears, and our bottom parts. All these openings should be protected by not allowing any outside viruses to enter. That means keep your hands clean. Whenever you touch your body, your hands should be not contaminated with this virus. So washing the hands very important. And increasing your immunity by taking suitable medicines supplied by your parents and the government should be very important. So I am not going to go very long about this subject. I think you may, in future sessions, our Dhamma school might be able to deliver a separate lesson on this behalf for your protection. And now I think of going to my main topic, that is Venerable Sariputta Thero. This topic you can see in grade 3 book, that is lesson 26. So when we start with this, there have been two families actually, friendly families during the Buddha's time in two communities in India where Buddha was living. That is those two villages, Kolita and Upatissa. Those two, these two families had two boys born almost at the same time. So since the families are very good friends, eventually the boys who were born together became very good friends. They were very bright, intelligent, wise children. They learned their education. They did very well, very smart, as you like our young generation, and all were for the fun at the whole time. They were enjoying their young age. They look forward for fun every time. So eventually they grew up as youths. So at the age of youth also they were enjoying together. They used to go for all festivals and musical shows and entertainment parties and all. So one day, but they were in their back of their mind, since they were wise, they were observing the world. At that time in India, most intellectuals were thinking of what is the life, why the people are not satisfied with what we get in this life. So some of them they became sages or paribrajakas and went around looking for answer. So they saw that also. They had all, since they were wise, they were thinking, something is there, something like that. It was working in their mind. One day they went for a great show called Giraja Samaj. That means there was a festival like carnival on a hilltop. So they went there to enjoy. Of course, the show was very nice and they enjoyed it. But all through the show, their minds, both of them, their minds were working to say that even we get this pleasure, it is very temporary. Maybe like you now, see, we go for dancing, after some time we get fed up, we get exhausted. That means, what is the use of that? What the result is that ultimately we are exhausted. So like that, they realize that these fun, the pleasure, what we get from our five senses is very temporary and it is not going to give us the eternal pleasure. So in that book, you can see it as a dialogue, and I think I invite you to read it. So now they discuss, even though we enjoyed the show, now we are nothing left. No, we are only that instant pleasure. Whatever we see in the outside world, that people are looking for the eternal truth and eternal pleasure. And so like us, we also must do it. So they got together and discussed, and they went around looking for this whatever the never-ending peace in mind. So first they went to the local preacher called Sanjay. He was a religious leader there at that time, and very soon, because they are intelligent, very soon they learned whatever they are teaching. He taught them, but they found that it is not the real answer to their need, their desire, and they did not find what they look for. So what happened then? They decided, now so we go around India and go to some other teachers. So eventually they went to many places. They became paribrajaka. Paribrajaka means wearing rough robes and all, and tie up their hair on top, and carrying a water jug and bowl, went around begging food and looking for salvation from this suffering world, right? And they went to many teachers, but ultimately they couldn't find the answer. So they came back. They decided, okay, now we did it together, now we separate. And one by, you go your way, I go my way, and try to find the real truth for this question, the problem. So this is the time that Lord Buddha was finishing the first rainy season in Varanasi, Isipatana, after preaching Dhamma to 5 ascetics and making them arhat. So youngest of that 5 ascetics who became bhikkhus was our Arhat Assaji. So he was the youngest out of all, and he had been going arms round on that day. It happened so that Upatissa came across this Arhat Assaji. Seeing Arhat Assaji, he became so excited, amused to see that such a sane person, such calm and brilliant person. He has never seen such a person before that. He thought, this person must be a great person, someone who has achieved something in the path of enlightenment. So he followed he followed Arhat Assaji. At the end of the alms collection, Arhat Assaji sat under a tree and consumed his dana, for which our Upatissa also helped. At the end, so they had a discussion, and then he asked, may I know who is your teacher, from whose doctrine you follow? Then Arhat Assaji answered, my dear Upatissa, I am not an experienced person to teach you Dhamma because I am just new in this. But I can tell you something about my teacher. He is Lord Buddha, and his teaching is something like this. So he expounded a Gatha stanza called, this is the stanza he preached. Ye Dhamma hetu pabhava te sang hetun tathagato aha. Te sanchaya nirodho evam vadi mahasamano. So this is in Pali. I think if I tell you it in English here, whatever things arise with cause, that means the senses what you get from 5 doors in your body, that means eyes, nose, ears, the tongue and the body and mind. Those are the feelings that whatever we take messages from those things and we build up things like that. That is what we call sanskara. That means we create things by waking. So whatever the things arise by those things are, Buddha has told that those reason for arising this, why these things are arising, why this, and how to seize it, right? Then how to, and these are the doctrine of my teacher. So very simple, right? Whenever whatever the thing, phenomena rising in the mind or whatever it is, even it is applicable to the whole universe. But when we think about a person, it's our mind, right? So what is the cause for that, and how to eradicate that cause, and so that we will be free of that suffering, right? This is when the Arhat Assaji expounded these 2 lines first two lines, Upatissa read the first stage of enlightenment, that means stream winning, he became Sotapanna. So he learned the whole stanza and he went looking for his friend now. So on his way, Kolita, when seeing his friend coming on from far away, he realized that something has changed my friend today. He seems to be, he looks much more satisfied, like, so he thought something has, then he asked, my friend seems to be very happy today, what happened? Then Upatissa said, yes, today I found the real thing what we want. And he explained to him that this is what I learned, and he recited that stanza to him. So once he finished reciting the stanza, Kolita also read the first stage of enlightenment, that means Sotapanna, stream winning. So now both are Sotapanna youths who are Sotapanna stage. Now they went to see Lord Buddha. When they came to Jetavana, Lord Buddha saw from far, but with his knowledge from Buddha, they realized that these are the two great people who are going to be great supporters to his Dhamma doctrine, to spread his Dhamma doctrine. So the Lord Buddha robed them, that means they became bhikkhus, and step by step Lord Buddha guided them to achieve Arahant. So it took some time, but eventually they both become great Arahant. So seeing the skill of those two great young disciples, Buddha appointed them as the two great disciples to support in preaching Dhamma. So being the wisest in the Buddha's doctrine, wisest disciple of Buddha, he stood by Buddha in preaching Dhamma to and explaining Dhamma to everybody who wants the service of the Dhamma. So why this Upatissa? Now, when they became monks, they were called Sariputta and Kolita. Sariputta means the son of Sari. Sari is the name of Upatissa's mother. The Kolita was named as Moggali Putta. That means, in short, sometimes we call Moggallana. So Moggali, Kolita's mother's name was Moggali. So Moggali's son is Moggali Putta, and he is named Moggallana. So Upatissa, that means our Sariputta Thero, most venerable Sariputta Thero has the next in wisdom concern next to Lord Buddha. He understood Dhamma very quickly, very fast, and he managed to explain it to many people in the Buddha doctrine. So he was named as mother of Buddha Sasana, Buddha's doctrine, because when a new bhikkhu or somebody who became a bhikkhu, the Venerable Sariputta used to guide him in the path of Dhamma so that he will reach the first stage of Sotapanna. After that, Moggali Putta Thero will take over and guide him to reach the ultimate state of Nibbana. So he was named as father of Dhamma. So Sariputta Thero was, this is a nickname of course, Sariputta Thero was known as mother of Dhamma. Kolita Putta Thero was the father of Dhamma in guiding the disciples to reach Nibbana. So that is why Sariputta Thero is so important, our Buddha's doctrine. There were 80 of them who were appointed by Buddha for various proficiency in their skills. So Sariputta Thero is named as most wisest, And of course, Kolita we will learn later as a separate character, I suppose. He became the power with person with the highest psychic power. So I think now you learn something about Venerable Sariputta Thero, but there may be a lot of other stories related to his biography. You may come across in your future dwelling, when you are dwelling through the Dhamma, you may find many occasions. Venerable Sariputta has expounded several discourses, suttas, explaining complicated, difficulty items, ventilators, the concept of Buddha's teaching, explain, and he was very capable of explaining those things. And wherever and whenever it was done, Buddha used to praise him, saying that he is the wisest person who is there to explain this thing to my other disciples, and that is why he is so important. Now I think I have to come to the end of this story when that is Venerable Sariputta passed away, reached his Parinibbana before Buddha. And when he was ready for Parinibbana, he got permission from Buddha and went to his mother's place. Unfortunately, until that time, his mother was not a disciple of Buddha. She was a disciple of Brahma religion those days. So she was strictly following that Brahmin religion. So that day, during the night, when Venerable Sariputta Thera was residing in mother's cottage, a lot of deities or celestial beings used to come in the night. You know, celestial beings, they, depending on their merit powers, their colors, body colors are different. When they come in the night, you can see different colors. You can ask all these things from your parents, but so depending on their merit powers, so those these celestial beings, when they come, you can see in the sky. His mother used to see. So she used to go and ask Arhat Sariputta, who is that who came and all that. Then he explained, so and so came, this Deva came, this Brahma came, and all that. Ultimately, very bright, very big light arrived. So she was so excited, amused to see what is that. Then soon after his departure, he went and asked Venerable Sariputta, who is that who came with a gleaming light, was beautiful big light, who came, who is that? Then Venerable Sariputta said, oh, it is Mahabrahma. Then his mother was excited, oh, because Mahabrahma was her ultimate follower. He was following Mahabrahma's doctrine, Mahabrahma as doctrine. So she thought, if Mahabrahma is respecting respect to my son, that means my son is above Mahabrahma. So then she asked, yes, are you above? Then he said, yes, quality-wise, achievement-wise, I am above Mahabrahma. That's why he respects me. So he venerates me. So then she became a Buddhist. Then Venerable Sariputta Thero, my teacher is so and so, Lord Buddha. Please go to the refuge of Lord Buddha. So she took refuge of Lord Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. She became a Buddhist. Then eventually, I suppose she reached the Enlightenment. And this is how he salvaged his own mother also. So I think I explained to some extent about the Venerable Sariputta. Now I leave this matter for you to go explore further about this great person in our Buddha's doctrine. So thank you for listening to me. If you have any question, you can direct it to for answers. And thank you, Siddhanta. And thank you. Teruvan Saranai. I pass the matter to Siddhanta.
Thank you, Karu sir, for explaining story in detail about Venerable Sariputta. Children, if you listen carefully, there were two friends named Upatissa and Kolita, and then the other two people who later on became Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahamoggallana. Just want to remind something here. It's not just in that life they became friends. Even long before, many lives, they were friends. Also, you know, our Lord Buddha, the previous lives we refer in general as Bodhisattva. They crossed paths in many times, and they completed many virtues together to become the two main disciples of this Gautama Buddha Sasana. So if you have come across, or you will in the future, there are Jataka stories and there are reference to their previous lives, and they, the Upatissa and Kolita, or Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahamoggallana. So if you have any questions, like Haru said, you can direct them to us, and we will try to answer those questions at the end. Now we are a little bit behind with the time, and I hope that's okay with you as we continue to learn Dhamma. And we've come to the fourth lesson, or the fourth segment of the day, and we have our Rohita sir, and has chosen a very timely topic as well, is to describe some of the Lord Buddha's called equality, kindness, and fairness. If I ask you a question, how many qualities Lord Buddha has, you may sometimes say there were 9 great qualities. That's correct. That's what we learned in the Itipiso Gatha. But the truth is, we cannot count the number of qualities the Buddha has. It's innumerable or uncountable. Only another Buddha can praise the qualities of another Buddha. But for now, for our learnings, Rohita sir will explain some of the stories about Lord Buddha's kindness, fairness, and equality. So I invite Rohita sir now to take us the lesson from here. Thank you, Rohita sir.
Thank you, Siddhanta sir. My highest respects to Swaminathan sir, Shantavimala Swaminathan sir, my colleagues, teachers, students, and all participating parents. I bow to all of you. Very good to be talking to you like this when we are missing so much of face-to-face interaction due to these problems. But anyway, as part of this project of the Dhamma School, I'm trying to give you a short talk on this topic, which is Lord Buddha's equality, kindness, and fairness. This lesson, as a lesson, has been done in grade 8 in much more extended and extensive way. But I'm trying to make it more simple so that all of you can understand, and I present it like this. But firstly, let me remind you, I'm sure you know, that our Lord Buddha is the most magnificent human being and the most perfect and the most accomplished one among all beings in all 3 worlds, or a number of worlds. These qualities we are talking about today are basically proof of that. Now, when we talk about qualities of the Lord Buddha, as Siddhanta sir said, there are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of qualities of Lord Buddha. We can only talk about a few main ones. So today we are going to talk about I'm just going to give you some examples of just the 3, because sometimes they are relevant today. So the first one I'm talking about is his sense of equality, how he treats everyone, how he treated everyone with the same level of same approach, I would say. So I'm going to show you some pictures continuously from here, and you might be able to see the first picture on the screen. And the first person that we are talking about his sense of as a proof of his equality is the young street cleaner Sunita. He was not only poor, he was not only a poor young boy, but he was doing some menial jobs like cleaning the streets, but he was also from so-called low caste family. So those days in India, in that kind of in that time of Lord Buddha. There were so many different castes, and the lowest caste was Chandala or Sedol. And this person, Sunita, was born into one of those families. And he was so, and even today, I must tell you, even today in India, they're called untouchables, and they're just left a little bit away from the normal society, the mainstream. So it happens even today. Sunita was so humbled by his situation that when he saw Lord Buddha and the other monks walking on that same road towards him, he basically stepped back, and he, out of his sense of, that sense of, for the sense of the other people, for their superiority, he might be thinking that everyone is so superior to him. So he just basically stepped back. But what did Lord Buddha do? He and then what happens in those days is everybody, including the clergy of the other religions, when they pass such a person, they keep him, give him such a long distance away from him, ignore him, and they walk past. But what did Lord Buddha do? He basically, he doesn't care about all this. He just walked right up to him and asked him whether he'd be interested to become a monk and join the order. So that itself is showing, and he broke the rules, basically, the norms of the society at that time. So you can understand that Lord Buddha is someone who would have that strong sense of equality to a poor, low caste person like Sunita. And then we go over to another slide, which will show you the picture of someone whom I'm sure you have heard about. This is he's a well-known serial killer, if you want to call that serial killing. Yes, he had to kill 1,000 people to get 1,000 fingers. His name was Angulimala, who was terrorizing the whole country and the whole state. And he had a very bad reputation for that. So he was called a mass murderer. But Lord Buddha not only afraid, he was not afraid to meet this person, as you can see in the picture, but also had no hesitation in bringing him into the monk's order. There was not the slightest doubt or thought Lord Buddha spared for associating with such a person. And he didn't think that it was incorrect for a person like Angulimala to be addressed, and then the truth to be told, and kind of getting him into the correct path. So he was the only person, in fact, among all the other religious groups. They never wanted to step in and confront him, but Lord Buddha did. And the rest there. This is a long story. I'm just giving you some basic facts about that. So we go to the next person who was in this thing, in this quality of equality. This is a lady called Ambapali, but this lady had a bad reputation because she was supposed to be a courtesan and associating with so many different people, from the kings, princes, and everyone. So she had a bad reputation. But when she became impressed with the Dhamma, and she was interested in to learn more, and she wanted to get rid of her bad ways, she invited Lord Buddha and the monks for an almsgiving at her mansion. Now you can just imagine if today, if there was such a person, and if you get invited, I'm sure, especially a well-known person like Lord Buddha at that time in the society, would think twice of going over there. But he and his sense of equality is such that, just like in the case of Sunita, like in the case of Angulimala, he had no hesitation in accepting that. So his sense of equality shone through when he accepted it. And then he went there with the other monks and took the dana. It was a dana ceremony, and then delivered a sermon. And she became she completely changed herself. And so this is another point of proof that Lord Buddha never had anything, and also he never thought twice about going to that house of Ambapali, which had a bad reputation. Then we move on to one of the other qualities of Lord Buddha, which is kindness. Now we have been listening to Vimal sir explaining his kindness, his loving kindness. So this is also about that same thing, which is boundless, limitless, and it shines through. If you just compare on like a misty morning, when you might have seen a misty morning, and you might have seen how the sun shines through the misty mornings. It just basically evaporates all the mist, and so his kindness shines through very clearly through this darkened world. So you can see the next slide, which is about this is about the young man called So Parker. This picture looks so horrid, so terrible, and that's what it was at that time. This young boy was being abused by his stepfather, and what his stepfather did was basically took him out, tied him up, and then tied him to a dead body and left him in the cemetery alone to be eaten up by the wolves and the jackals who come there to feed on dead bodies. So he was so, he was so helpless, and he was crying out, and I can just imagine what a 6 or 7 year old boy will feel. But somehow, through the powers of Lord Buddha, he saw this happening and he rescued him. And the thing is that he, as soon as he was taken to the temple, he could understand the Dhamma, and he became the youngest monk to become an Arahant at the age of 7. So you can just imagine what an achievement that is, to have for Lord Buddha to have recognized him and to have saved him from that very terrible fate. Then the next one is again someone that nobody would normally try to help, a household servant called Angulimala. She was beaten up almost every day by her mistress. So you can just imagine if someone tries to beat you up every single day. And at that time in India, this was a standard thing to kind of abuse your servants. You think that you are punishing them for something that they have done. But in this case, the mistress, just as a habit, used to kind of beat her up. But she had long hair. So this mistress held her from the long hair and beat her up. So what Angulimala did was she basically cut it very, very short. But then the mistress, what she did was she put a rope around her neck and then held her by the rope, and then continued that same practice. So it came to a point where Angulimala was basically trying to give up her life and trying to take her life. And only thing is that all this could be seen by Lord Buddha through his powers, his divine powers, and he intervened at the point, as you can see the middle picture, where she was almost trying to, get rid of her life and get off. But he intervened, and he advised her to go back, and he intervened with the mistress and her father. And as you can see there on the picture, on the rightmost picture, he advised the mistress and her father and Angulimala also to not lose hope in life. And the positive thing is that the mistress actually came to her senses and then listened to what Lord Buddha was saying and promised not to do that again. So there was another person that was saved through Lord Buddha's kindness. And the fact here is that Lord Buddha's attitude to the society and the people is amazing. It simply goes through all levels of society, and in this case found very low life people, I mean, like Sunita at that time and Rajumala. And then also there was this person, I'm sure you have heard so many times about this person. This is Kisa Gautami. Kisa Gautami, whose infant died in her hands. And since she was so, she loved her child so much, she couldn't understand that the child is already dead. But she walked around with that dead baby, and she was laughed at by everybody, thinking, don't you understand that the baby is dead? But she didn't understand. She came, somehow found Lord Buddha at the temple, and then again, Lord Buddha's kindness was that he didn't basically laugh like everybody else or ask her to, get away from there. He said, okay, sister, can you, he addressed her in a very intelligent way, in a way that an intelligent person like her would understand. He said, can you go and find a handful of pepper seeds from a family where, or from extended family even, where no one has died. So she went through, I think she walked the whole day, and she found that there was no such family, and she came back. She put the infant into the cemetery and then came back, and I think she became Sotapanna later on. And so that's another example. Then we are talking about Lord Buddha's fairness. In this case, we're talking about, I was talking to you about the low kind of grade of people who the society shunned at that time. But now, these are people who were high-grade people. I mean, people of very high level of society, like kings and queens. So here we are talking about, this is just an example of one of them, which is Queen Khema. She was, her husband was the king in that state, but she didn't like Lord Buddha because she had heard some wrong things about him, thinking that he didn't like beauty or anything like this, and she didn't want to visit the temple or see him. But somehow one day she stepped into the temple, and then Lord Buddha fully realized what she was, and he created this some sort of a image of a beautiful woman fanning him, and then the woman getting older and older and ultimately falling dead, which gave Queen Khema some idea that that it can happen to her as well, and that is the one that triggered her to become a bhikkhuni. And if you want to know, okay, I'll talk about that just in the next one. The next one is this person. You can see in the middle picture how harsh and how vicious he looks. That's King Ajasattha. And whether it is someone who is always revering and following Lord Buddha closely, or somebody who is against him like this, because he is the one who set up archers to shoot down Lord Buddha and also got the elephant Nalagiri to attack him. But still, Lord Buddha never kind of took that upon him to treat him in a different way. He treated him fairly, and ultimately the results of Khema and King Ajasattha is that, this is King Ajasattha, sorry I forgot to mention the name, is that King Ajasattha later on became the highest person who had the highest level of reverence and respect for Lord Buddha and the Dhamma. And Khema, Queen Khema, when she became a bhikkhuni, she became one of the two disciples. You might have heard about the other one, Khema Uppalavanna. And so see, his sense of fairness, if he rejected both of them, they wouldn't have reached those levels, but he did ultimately. By all his this kind of high qualities, a lot of people were saved by dying and also getting into the correct path. So this is the message, and I, in my own mind, talking about fairness, I think that Lord Buddha is one of the very foremost persons who introduced this word, this concept called fair go that we actually use in the society these days. So that's the kind of roundup, and I thank you for listening, and may you all be safe and well. Thank you. Over to Siddharth, sir.
Thank you, Rohit sir. I think you did it very beautifully by using different slides. I think it's very easy to understand when we see slides, especially for our younger children, so they can relate to the story fast and quickly, and they can grasp the lesson. In summary, what Rohit has tried to explain is, back in the day, even today, India had divided into different social classes based on their race, some religious beliefs, as well as based on their occupation. But with Lord Buddha in the kingdom of Buddhism, there was no separation by the race or by the caste. It's purely how well you can understand Dhamma, and based on your wisdom, you can achieve different stages, and maybe you can also end the cycle of samsara. So that's the essence of the story, and highlighting the kindness, fairness, and equality of Lord Buddha. I think there is, I was very lucky during the session. I quickly went on YouTube and had a chance to look at some of the comments. And I saw there are some viewers from Tasmania, as well as from Queensland and Cairns, and perhaps maybe some people from overseas as well. I think there is a hidden blessing of this whole thing with the coronavirus that has given a better chance that we can reach out to a wider audience of children and parents, and continue to learn this Dhamma knowledge. I think that is such a positive here, is one of the hidden messages. Now let's quickly look at the questions. There is a question for our Venerable Shantuimala Hamuduro. There was one question. It's like this. The question was, how did Lord Buddha die? In general, we refer as the great passing or great parinirvana of Lord Buddha, and how Lord Buddha became a doctor is the question from that Putha. Avasara Ape Hamudurane, if you can answer that question.
First question was, how did the Buddha passed away? Is that? Yeah, Buddha passed away when he was 80 years old. Once his longevity is over, and he had to depart from the world, right? Because that is the true nature of every sentient beings, have to face death, right? If anybody comes to this world, having born, one day that person has to leave from this world. That means that person has to face the death one day. So that is the natural phenomena of all the sentient beings have to face one day, right? For you and for myself also, one day when the death comes to me, I have to say goodbye to this world, and I have to leave this world. That's what happened to the Lord Buddha as well. Once his longevity is over, then he had to leave from this world. So that is how the Lord Buddha entered into Parinibbana. And why I said that the Lord Buddha was a doctor and physician, because I think he's the greatest man, greatest physician in this world who discovered the greatest problem of suffering. No anyone else has discovered this, right? No any other doctors, no any other special doctors who have expounded, who have discovered the problem of suffering. So the suffering is the major problem of everything in this world that we experience in our day-to-day life. So without Buddha, there won't be any person who have discovered this problem. So that's why I call the Buddha as a doctor, because he clearly explained what is the problem is, and he clearly identified what is the cause for problem, and he clearly explained that there is a cure, right? Cure, and then he gave a prescription for that cure, for that overcoming that suffering. So in that way, he clearly, as a doctor, he clearly gave these instructions for people to follow, right? It's the same like when you go to a doctor. First thing that doctor recognize what the problem is, right? He try to find the problem, and then he try to find what is the cause of problem, and then he will instruct you. You have to follow this, and you have to do this and that. In that way, he will give you some kind of medication, right? Medical treatments you to follow in order to overcome from the sicknesses. In the same way, the Buddha has given clearly the instructions for you to overcome from all these suffering. That's why the Buddha can be considered as considered as the greatest doctor, physician in this world. I hope the Buddha will understand that.
We respectfully thank our Swamin Wahanse for explaining why Swamin Wahanse referred as Lord Buddha as a doctor. We have a question for our Vimal sir now. There are actually a couple of questions. I'll ask the first question, Vimal sir, and once you finish the answer for that one, then I'll come back to the second question. The question is around how many gathas in Dhammapada, and what's the name of the story this Nahi Verena Verani Gatha was in. So that's the first question. How many gathas in Dhammapada, and what's the name of the story? Thank you, Vimal sir.
This Gatha in your textbook in grade 3, lesson 10, you can find this Gatha and the story. The Dhammapada Gatha, there are 423 Gathas in Dhammapada, and the story is Kali Yakkini's story, the story name. But the Gatha, we don't have actually the name for the Gathas, but we introduce Gatha with the first line or first few words. We introduce the Gatha. For example, we say Nahi Verena Verani Gatha, or Durangamang Ekacharang Gatha. So that's the beginning of the Gatha we say to introduce the Gatha. But for the related story, there is a story, the name for the story given for this one is given Kala Yakkini's story. I think that is enough for that question. Yes.
Thank you, Vimal sir. Thanks for answering that question, but clearly, but in short. There is another question for you from your lesson that one of the Dua Oputa has. I think there are two questions. I'll combine the questions together. One question is, what if you taught bad things of other people? Will that lead to suffering? And the second part of the question is that when sometimes you're angry with people, they tend to go around and say bad things about yourself and others. So will that lead to suffering as well? I think the first part is about the thoughts, and the second part is about actions as well. Vimal sir, if you want to add some comments to that, please.
That's a good question. Actually, it is because that is what happens in the society. People always think bad about the others, and then go and talk about those bad things with the others. Actually, that one. That is the third thought first, then the word came later. They both are bad. They both leads to the suffering, actually, yes, because they are we call sin, papa. If you think about something bad about someone, which is akusala or papa, the akusala or papa leads to suffering. Suffering means dukkha. If you do bad thing, if you talk bad thing, or if you think bad thing about somebody else, or even enemy, or even you show as a very good friend, but you are doing bad things to the friends behind the person. So all those things are papa or akusala. Then it leads to a suffering. If you do a bad thing, it is, when we say Buddha once mentioned that people can do dark things, black things. And if you do a black thing or dark thing, the result you get is bad or black, dark thing, dark result. So if you think bad about the others or talk bad about the others, that is dark, and you get the dark results. And this time I like to take an opportunity to say about the Lord Buddha's medical background. And so the child who asked about when Swami Nuhanse said Buddha was a doctor, he might have thought that which medical college he went to get the medical degree, or perhaps something like that. But Buddha himself introduced him as Besajja Guru. And I cannot exactly remember the words now, but Buddha mentioned himself as a doctor. That the doctor word is an English word, but in Pali word, Besajja Guru, and Buddha used for himself as a doctor. So because he is the person gave the best medicine to the suffering world. So that is why he is the doctor. So now it's up to you, Siddhanta.
Thank you, Vimal sir, for answering those two questions. I have a question received now. It's more for our Rohita sir. The question is about Angulimala, and the question says, what would have happened if Angulimala tried to kill his mother instead of Lord Buddha? I think it's probably maybe worth explaining the story very quickly, Rohita sir, because that was the intention anyway. Angulimala wanted to kill his mother, and Lord Buddha intervened. Perhaps you can explain the story very quickly for that duo or Putta. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Siddhanta, for that question, and also the student who asked for that. I'm sure the panel can give much better details, but I'll attempt to give some answer. It was actually at a point when Angulimala was just missing one finger. He had 999 fingers. He needed just the one to make with the promise that he made to his teacher. So unfortunately, that was the time when his mother thought, I'm going to see him and to ask him to stop this massacres and all that sort of thing. And I'm going to ask my own son, please come home, forget about this. But what happened then was that Lord Buddha saw through his divine powers that if the mother goes into the jungle where Angulimala was, and Angulimala is so desperate to get this one finger because he's been hunting around for the last so many days, but he couldn't find someone. But he'd be so desperate that he would kill his own mother. And that was that's one of those sins. I suppose akusala karma, that was one of the major ones out of the 5 that we know. So Lord Buddha thought to himself, no, I'm going to prevent this. I have to prevent this thing happening because Angulimala, after he commits that, he'll be in some kind of world where he'll suffer for so many thousands of years. And Angulimala doesn't see sense because he's just trying to fulfill his promise. So that's why Lord Buddha intervened and appeared there, even at the risk of Angulimala hurting him. Or of course, the Samma Sambuddhas have separate divine powers. So he knew also that if by going there himself, that Angulimala can be brought into the correct path, and that's what happened. So I believe that's the answer that the student was looking for. Over to you.
Thank you, Rohita sir. And if I may add something to that story, children. So what happened before that was because Angulimala was collecting fingers to fulfill a promise, like Rohita sir said, and the whole village and the villages and the societies were terrorized. So the villagers went and complained to the king, you need to capture this Angulimala and put it in jail. So then king decided to send the troops or the army to capture. But Angulimala's mother knew this and she wanted to save. That's the mother's love. So that's why she quickly went to meet the son before the army capture. And that's where Lord Buddha saw with the greatest power that Angulimala could commit a great sin if he killed his own mother. But Lord Buddha also saw that Angulimala had the power, the knowledge to understand Dhamma. So that's a little bit of background story for you, just to add a little bit more to that story there. And we have one more question for Rohita sir, and that will be the last question for today. Rohita sir, this question is around why the stepfather beat the son. I think it's related to Sunita Osopaka's story, why that stepfather was abusing the little child is the question.
Yes, thank you for that question also. It just happened that Sopaka, that is Sopaka, not Sunita, Sopaka lost his father when he was young, and his mother married, I suppose, married another person, and that person also had another son. Somehow it just happens that these children don't get on with each other, and the man, the stepfather, thought that his child was being molested or being somehow being threatened by that's his opinion, and that's what he felt, and because of that he took action against Sopaka, not once but so many times, and at the end of it, which is not fair, because he didn't really take a fair attitude, but he felt that this guy should be punished, but in such a brutal way of not only beating him up, but tying up his hands and legs and taking him to the cemetery and tying him up with a dead body, which is inhuman. So the reason for that is that what I have read in the books, why he did it. I hope that answers.
Thank you, Rohita sir. I think you explained that very well about the story of Sopaka. And children, if you're wondering why the stepfather took him to a cemetery and tied to a dead body, back in the day, that's the tradition. When someone died or when someone passed away, you just roll it up in a piece of paper, a piece of cloth, and you throw it in the jungle. It's not like the modern day where we have a coffin or we go to the cemetery or cremate or burial. So that's the lifestyle back in the day. So if you're wondering why is that. Just to quickly summarize what we discussed today, our Shantavimala Thero explained briefly about the Four Noble Truths, and we are planning to analyze this lesson in detail as we progress. And then we had our Vimal Gamagesa explain the Gatha from Dhammapada, the Nahi Verena Verani. And the key message there is you can only overcome hatred or anger through love and kindness, not through hatred and anger. And then we had our Karusa explain the story of Venerable Sariputta and touched on a little bit about Venerable Mahamoggallana as well. And we hope to cover the story of Venerable Mahamoggallana in a future lesson as well. And then lastly, we had our Rohita sir explain some of the qualities of Lord Buddha, the fairness, kindness, and equality. So that sums up our lesson for today. And the plan is for us to continue our next lesson, same time next Sunday at 2 o'clock. We do apologize. We had a bit of technical issues this afternoon, so we couldn't start exactly at 2 o'clock. So just bear with us. Sometimes these are some of the challenges we have because all the teachers are connected from their houses and Swamin Wahanse from the temple. Now, lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to respectfully invite our Swamin Wahanse to share the merits with the divine beings, and then we can conclude the lesson for today. Hamgurune Avasarai.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, once again. And we have successfully conducted and concluded our discussion. Now it is time for us to share and dedicate some merits with the divine beings and celestial beings. So may all celestial beings come forward, and may all divine beings come forward and rejoice and take part in these good merits, and we rejoice having seen this meritorious action which we have done today. May all celestial beings be able to extend, be able to enhance, develop their divine qualities. In return, may all the divine beings protect you very well, protect the members of the panel very well, and protect the people who support to make this event successful. And may all divine beings extend their guidance and extend their protection towards all the beings in this world, especially this pandemic situation in the world. May the blessings of all the divine beings, may the world be peaceful, and may the world be healthy. May all living beings be able to live and lead their life happily and peacefully. May the divine beings also be able to attain the final goal of Nibbana. Having wished that, we recite these stanzas together. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkhantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkhantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkhantu tvang sada. And I want to thank everyone who have come forward to make this event successful, especially the panel members. Even though they are very busy with their day-to-day activities, they have not forgotten our Sunday school children, but they have dedicated their time and effort to organize this event and to teach you something. And also our IT members, especially Piyat sir and especially Sahan sir, and also our teacher Siddhanta Ayya also have come forward to make this event successful. And all the panel members and all of you be able to gain good health and good luck. May the triple gems always be with you. Wish you all the best. Terwan Sarana.